have several speakers today. We're starting with Jenny and Angelina from the IUPUI Financial Aid Office. Each presenter will have 10 minutes and then take questions either in the chat or by unmuting yourself. So I'll be giving the presenters a 1-minute warning in the chat window so we can stay on time. When we do this in person, we usually have a bell that we ring. So we're just gonna give them a little warning in the chat window and then time for questions. So please be thinking of those questions and don't be shy. And again, welcome all. I'll hand it over to Angelina and Jeannie.
Thank you, Jennifer. Really appreciate it. And Angelina is on with me as well. I'm going to start by sharing my screen and hope that you guys have received this document. But we're just going to briefly run through that, see if there are any questions, and then we'll turn it back over to Jennifer. But I am Jenny Washington. I work in the Office of Student Financial Services, and Angelina is also in the same office with me and handles grad students in particular. So for as financial aid and graduate students, we're talking mostly loans. Those loans come in the form from the Department of Education, which is the federal government. And they come in two different types. There's the unsubsidized loan, and then there's the Grad Plus loan. And as you see, they each have an annual amount for the unsub and the interest rate, and there's always going to be an origination fee when you take out an unsubsidized loan. The same kind of follows suit for the Graduate Plus loan, which is a lot like the parent loan that parents take out for undergraduate students. So this Grad Plus loan is given to grad students to help pay for the cost of attendance. It is at 5.3% and also carries an origination fee that you would pay. That comes out of your loan prior to you receiving the proceeds from the Department of Ed. And then of course, whatever tuition and fees you owe the university come out of that. And then if there's still excess after that, those funds are given back to you to help pay for your other educational expenses. So those two particular loans, and then there are private loans. They're always listed last. They're always the last consideration because those normally come from banks and credit unions in your community. And they usually are at a different interest rate, which is set by the lender. And of course, sometimes it's set also by what type of banking relationship you have with that lender. So those are the three major loans, but we also want you to know that there are scholarships and fellowships that we want you to look into, especially within IUPUI. There are ones that are out in your communities where you live or where your parents work or where you have relatives that might work. So always investigate looking for scholarships and fellowships because that will also help you with tuition, books and supplies, your living expenses while you're in school. Particularly from IUPUI, this is the link to our scholarship database where a lot of our scholarships are listed. Fellowships will normally come from your school or division. So if you're going into School of Education, they have their own fellowships. Or if you're going into Health and Human Services, they have their own fellowships. So you always should check with your advisor within the school or division that you're planning to actually enroll. Other sources, of course, are through the university, professional organizations, governmental agencies. So sometimes it might even be a place that you're thinking about working once you get your degree to look and see if they have any assistance as far as scholarships and or maybe helping pay off your student loans once you graduate. So paging on down, these are assistantships and other financial aid opportunities for grad students. Of course, if you are a veteran, there are special benefits that you have from serving in the military. Or if you are a child of a disabled veteran, you may still have benefits that your parent received for their dependents. So I don't know how many of you might be in that situation, but sometimes there are still CDO benefits for students at the graduate level. To get the process started, you're always going to have to start by completing a free application for federal student aid, which is called the FAFSA form. Although you see the preferred date of March 10th, you can still complete the FAFSA at this point. So if you thought about it and realize that maybe the finances aren't there, but you didn't complete a FAFSA, you can still do that. The FAFSA is available just by going to fafsa.ed.gov. You'll use our school code, which is 001813. It takes about 3 days for that FAFSA data to transfer back to the school. And we'll go through some eligibility criteria to make sure you are admitted to your graduate program, you're enrolled at least half-time, and that you are making satisfactory academic progress once your grades start to post to your academic transcript. There is a limited amount that you are eligible to borrow under the student loan program when they are subsidized or unsubsidized loan, and that is 138,500. So depending on what you borrowed as an undergrad, you would count that within that 138,500. So if you're not sure how much you borrowed or don't know what you have left remaining under the direct loan program, you can always go to nslds.ed.gov and look to see what you have borrowed. Again, you must be at least a half-time student, enrolled in 4 credit hours each semester. 8 hours is considered full-time. Tuition and fees, of course, are assessed by the university, and the university office that does that is called the bursar office or the business office. And the link that we included is a way for you to actually log in through that link, determine how many credits you're going to take based on your school or division, and it will actually give you a very good estimate of what the cost of attendance is for either going part-time or full-time. The rest are just some additional resources that we've listed and encourage you to click on and look through those, especially the student billing and payment options. With the bursar office, you'll want to make sure that you've done your Title IV authorization forms, so that if you are charging things like your parking decal, having that charge on your student account. The only way financial aid can pay those charges for those additional things is if you've given us authorization to allow us to pay out of your federal financial aid parking decals, or if you got a rec fee or got a locker fee, those charges. Tuition and fees is no problem, but when it comes to those additional items like parking and rec fees and the locker fees, you will need to give us authorization to do that. As well, through one.iu.edu, you'll complete that Title IV authorization form, as well as the bursar setup for direct deposit. You'll want to make sure that you have tied your financial aid account to the fact that when aid posts to the bursar will actually refund that money to your personal savings, checking, banking account, so that there is no delay. If there is a delay, it's usually because no one has done that and the money has to go by paper check. And a paper check takes a lot longer than direct deposit or EFT transfers. So those are a couple of the highlights. Again, make sure that you have checked to see what you've borrowed previously. And if you have borrowed previously and are going to attend at least half-time, you'll want to make sure you look at NSLDS to make sure your past loans are in deferment status. And that means that you would stop payments on any of those loans, or those loans won't go into repayment from your undergraduate work. Way to get a hold of us, we've listed our phone numbers, our email account. We prefer that you use the grad email account to email your questions, and those questions need to come from your IUPUI email account. We won't discuss your financial aid to a Gmail account or a Hotmail account. And then of course the bursar information there. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, I think. There we go. And open it up for questions.
And any questions for Jeannie or Angelina, you can either unmute or type them in the chat box. And please do ask questions. As I wrote in the chat, I will send a handout to everyone on the call, the handout that she was sharing on the screen.
Any concerns? Don't be afraid. Ask your questions. What is the difference between assistantship and a fellowship? Well, I would think the assistantship, and Jennifer, you might be able to help me with this. The assistantships have more of a teaching component to it in the classroom. And I don't know if the fellowship is more of a research type award or not.
Yeah, assistantship can be a graduate assistantship, a teaching assistantship, or a research assistantship, and it usually comes with a stipend, like an allowance, and in return for tuition remission and some work hours that you need to give, like 10 to 20 hours a week or something like that. The fellowship is different in that it is just given to you as a result. It's usually merit based, high GPA, GRE scores, that kind of thing. And there's not usually a requirement tied to it, like for work or something like that. So I hope that clarifies that. I know Katina's on the call. I don't know. She's our admissions coordinator and also our fellowship coordinator. If she has anything to add, she's welcome to do that. Otherwise, we'll go to another question.
No, yeah, I think you pretty much covered it.
I have a question that comes up for me a lot, and I'm not sure if it's covered in the handout, but if they've taken out loans as an undergrad, how does that work when they want to take out a loan as a grad student? Like, does that count towards it, or?
Yes, it does. The annual lifetime limit is 138,500. So if you have borrowed as an undergraduate, you do need to subtract that first from the 138,500 to determine what you have left to use as a graduate student, just for the direct loan program.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Is grad school financial aid? Is there any non-pay financial aid? Not sure of the term non-pay. Can you give me a little help there? As far as federal loans, which would be the direct loans, the Grad Plus loan is a federal loan, and then private loans, then yes, financial aid at the graduate level is mostly loans, unless you're looking at like a scholarship or assistantship or fellowship in those particular realms. But as far as financial aid from our financial aid office, the majority of it is, yes, federal student loans or private loans.
Yeah, and as I understand, graduate students are not eligible for like the Pell Grant or
That's
anything like
correct.
that. Okay.
Correct. They can get federal work study, which is part-time employment as a grad student. But they're still required to do the FAFSA.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both for joining us, and we're going to move on